Wow. Hmm. When I got this call this morning about 9 o'clock, Tiffany the wordsmith asked me, "Are you spontaneous? How are you with spontaneity?" I said, "Well, I guess I'm okay." And she said, "I need you to come down to St. John at 10:30. Now it's 9 o'clock. I'm still laying in bed. So I jumped up, took a shower, and came on down here. And then when I saw all of these awesome people she was talking to, she said she wanted to talk to seniors. She said, Sistermama Sonya, you're not quite there yet. But as of November the 20th, November 26th in 2020, I became an official senior citizen because I turned 65. Notice I didn't say 60. I said sexty, S-E-X-T-Y, because I'm going to embrace my sextiness. You know, it's been a wonderful journey for me. We've all had ups and downs, the ins and outs. Had my toe amputated last year and still learning how to live and, just with the whole idea. It was a small toe, so it didn't really have anything to do with my gait or balance, but it was different. I am a black woman. I am a proud black woman. I am a product of, it's an area called Green Pond, which is right down the street. It's almost gone. But in Green Pond, I was right next to, now they even almost call that River Oaks. So I say, I was born in River Oaks and my mom and daddy did not work for no white folk. So that's where I came from. Then I grew up in the West End. And then we moved to 3rd Ward, the Tray. So during the Tray, I went to Lockhart Elementary where I learned so much. I mean, I think that was my best education. Even better than what I got in law school at UT. What I got, that bedrock at Lockhart, was just fabulous. Then I lost my mind. We all went to Lanier in River Oaks. But then we came back and I went to JY. If you cut me, I bleed crimson and gold. I got so much. Now, the education there was good, but probably not as good as I probably would have gotten someplace else because I had mostly white teachers there during that teacher crossover. But the experience I got at Yates was invaluable. Talking about the history and what you want to give and leave to your children. I think about, I am standing on the shoulders of my ancestors, my forefathers, and my foremothers. I talked earlier to Tiffany about the unknown ancestor. There are a lot of unknown ancestors. And those are the women we will never know their names. The sister that came across during the Middle Passage. The sister who bore child after child after child after being viciously raped by the white man. And she never was able to keep her children. Then there's a sister who got a call in the middle of the night. She had to go to that poplar tree because that strange fruit was hanging. That strange fruit who happened to be her father, her brother, her son, her uncle, her cousin. Then there was an unknown ancestor who had to get up every morning. 1954, 55, she had to walk all the way across Montgomery, Alabama. To see, she wasn't going to get on no bus. And as she walked, she was able to go back and tell her children the story of why she did it. We never knew her name. Then there was a sister who went to 16th Street Baptist Church. And when the church blew up, and those 4 little girls, Cynthia, Addie, Denise, and Carol, when it blew up, she was the sister who was sitting in that church and probably had to go and tell the mothers and explain to everybody else what happened. She may have been the sister who picked up the shoes of those babies that were in that rubble. Then there was the unknown ancestor. The sister who I guess it was 2000, whenever Barack Obama, 2009, I guess that was when the inauguration was. The sister who was 99 years old And she saw that little colored man raise his hand and become president. Then there was his sister who on yesterday, January 20th, 2021, who saw a little black girl recite a poem that was so fabulous and saw a grown-up black girl become vice president of the United States. So see, we have all of these unknown ancestors. We never know their names. And it's imperative that we tell their stories. I think it's so important for each of you to talk to your mama, your grandma, your auntie. And I'm focusing on the ancestors. Of course, talk to the brothers. Talk to the ancestors and the forefathers. But talk to those sisters. Because we are the keeper of the flame. What does it say? The hand that rocks the cradle. And I said, shapes the nation. It's so important to tell their stories. Now, I'm not a singer like Sister Sapper just left. But I always like to go, this is my story. This is my song. I'm gonna tell my story all the day long. I gotta tell my story. It's so important. Because, you know, we say that you cease to exist when the last person who says your name dies. But if you continue to tell your story, you will never die. It goes so on and so on and so on. I talked about those 4 little girls. Who is Sistermama Sonya? I am convinced when I heard about those 4 little girls getting killed, it resonated in my spirit. In 1963, I hadn't turned 8. I was 7 years old. And I'm convinced I carried them in my spirit. Because of everything that they went through. They died. What was their sin? What did they do wrong? Absolutely nothing. They went to church on a Sunday morning. I think it was at 10:12. The bomb went up and they were killed. That was in September. In November 22nd, 1963, President Kennedy was killed. My uncle, who pastored a church right down the street in 4th Ward, Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church, he used to call me Madam Queen. And he told my mother and father, bring that girl over here. Bring that gal over here. And they said that I sat on his lap and he talked to me for 2 hours. He just poured knowledge and stuff into me. That was on a Friday. On a Sunday, November 24th, he was preaching a sermon, and that sermon was, and I don't remember, but everybody talks about it. In everything you do, do it to the glory and honor of God. In the middle of the sermon, my father started walking up the aisle. And people were like, why is he walking up the aisle? This is the middle of the sermon. He was an usher, but why? And as Reverend A.A. Lucas turned to say, it was like goodbye to the choir, he fell in the pulpit and died. Whatever happened that whole weekend, I think that's what has framed me to who I am. I mean, when I was in the 4th grade, that's when we first started seeing a lot of blacks on TV. I had a tablet, and every time a black person came on TV, on a commercial, on a TV show, I would write it down. I've always loved who I am as a black girl. Now, I had some issues because, you know, I was a little black girl with nappy hair. I didn't have good hair. My mother was dark, my father was light. And people would even tell my mother, and I've gotten darker when I got older. Because I would wake up and pray. I'd be dark like my mama. And they told her she was a safe color. And mama said, safe? What has her color done to you to make it safe? Reverend A. Lucas, way back then, when people were talking about good hair, I don't remember this, but they told me, he said, well, tell me, what has your hair done for you lately? So see, I grew up in the South where these locks, even now, people say, ooh, you need to take that nappy stuff off your head. Or you shouldn't be walking around looking like that. But I am who I am. I love who I am. And I'm saying all that to say, all that stuff that I went through, the stuff growing up in the 60s. I remember we were sitting at the dinner table when my classmate, Cynthia Glass, was her name at the time, called and said, Martin Luther King just got shot because we hadn't turned on the TV yet. And that's how we found out. I remember when Malcolm X was killed. 1965, I believe it was. February 21st. I remember all of that stuff. And that's who I am, why I am. With this whole Black Lives Matter, I just love it. When I see these young people doing what they're doing, because see, we've been out there on the battlefield for a long time. When I say unknown ancestors and sisters, me and my friends, we go out and we do stuff. And we don't want nobody to know our name with what we're doing. We're just doing it to be doing it because we need to do it. If you do it. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? If it's not done, what's going to happen? It's important. It's very important that you find your passion. If I have to leave anything, you need to find your passion and do it. Whatever it is. Find your passion and do it. Whatever it is. Say it for the third time. Find your passion and do it. Whatever it is. When I see Miss Graham right here behind the camera. When I first met her, she had a camera in her hand. It's been several years ago. But that's her passion. And she does it well. Find your passion and do it. And I implore each and every one of you to learn your history, her story. We know about his story, but you got to learn her story. Learn your history and share your history after you've learned it with other folks. Right down the street, there's that Gregory Lincoln Library. My uncle that I told you about, great uncle, Reverend A.A. Lucas, he's on the wall. When my nephew, my sister had just adopted him, he was just learning how to read. He walked in there and he saw the picture. And he had just learned how to, how to spell his new name. He went Lucas. He said, oh, they got a name like us. And we said, that's your great uncle. Yeah, I think great uncle. Whatever how many greats it is. He's running up and down the house. Y'all come see my uncle. We famous. For children to have that, to feel that they belong to something that came before them. That's so important. We need, as African Americans, or I like to say Africans in America, we need to not be ashamed of who we are. When I heard all of these people on January 6th saying, oh Lord, this is not our country. That was America. America, and I like to say I spell it A with a small A, Amerikka. That's the America. That's the America in which we live. That's the America where children were killed in a church. That's the America where today poor people, we have poor white people too, poor people die because they can't eat. In a country where we have so much, it makes no sense that people in America die. People in America die because they don't have the proper health care. People in America die because they've lost their homes, they've lost everything, and sometimes we just kind of will ourselves, I think, when we get up out of here. People in America die from COVID-19 when they never should have. I believe when I woke up, they said today was the anniversary of the first case being diagnosed. But I have friends who had the symptoms in November. Supposedly they knew about it. That man who I refuse to say his name, hashtag not my prayers orange demon, he knew about it. They knew about it. 400,000 people have lost their lives, and that makes no sense. Whoever sees this down the road, my children's children's children, you will know that in 2020 we had a pandemic called racism, a pandemic called COVID-19. Now, the pandemic called racism dates back, but the pandemic called COVID is present. People are still dying, and those people who look like us are dying. Now, I'm hoping that with the new stuff that's going on, that we have a new president now, and hopefully stuff will happen where people won't die like they've been dying. We have a new vice president, a sister. I didn't say a sister. I said a sister. And that I take pride in it. I have on my Chucks, because she wear Chucks. And I have on my pearls. But I must say, my pearls are not only for her. I always, whatever I do. I mentioned the 4 girls. I mentioned my mama Gladys Marie Lucas, my daddy Lorenzo Lucas, and my sister Lorenita Lucas, who succumbed to breast cancer 3 years ago. And she wore pearls every day. So I wear them also. Yeah, make sure it's there. I wear them every day. But I also wore them for Kamala Harris yesterday, too. What I want to leave for the children of the future, you need to learn how to love yourself. I mean, love up on yourself. Because if you love yourself, if you don't love yourself, you can't do nothing for nobody else. See, we were growing up and we were taught God first, others second, and me last. It's God first, me, then others. Because if I can't love myself, how can I give love to you? How can I take care of you? You know, what do they say on the airplane? Well, I haven't been on an airplane so long because of COVID. But you put the mask on yourself first to take care of you. Learn how to love yourself. I tell people, women, when I talk to women, and can be unpleasant, before you dry off, after you dry off, after you get out the shower, get in the mirror and look at yourself butt naked. And say, this is me. I got lumps. I got bumps. I found a lot. I said, where did stomach come from? But you know what? It's mine. It's mine. Get in that mirror, ladies, and love up on yourself. Because, God is only giving you one thing you have dominion over. From the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. How you live your life depends upon how you take care of this. Because this is the only thing. I'm blessed to have a wonderful husband of 36 years. I have wonderful sisters. Well, sister, because there's only one left. And hi, Bronwyn Lucas. And they love me and I love them. But they should never love me more than I love myself. Black women, like I said, we've been marginalized as how we should look. Every time, J-Lo did a wonderful job and all like that, but when you see her and all them folks getting injections in their butt, we don't need that. That was natural for us. Then we were told it was ugly. Now it's the big lips. They get injections in their lips, all them folks. We already had it. I don't need no injection. God has given us so much as African Americans. We're the most resilient people, I say, on the planet. Us and the indigenous folks in this country. Because ain't nobody, if you want to call yourself an American, but them. Because they were here. And even before Columbus, there's been evidence. Ivan Van Sertima wrote a book and said there's evidence that there were black folks here before, way back in the day. But as African Americans, it's just so important that we love up on ourselves. Because they tell us we're ugly. They tell us we're this. And then they pit us against each other. The light against the dark. It don't matter. You still a Negro, African American, colored, African person. It doesn't matter. That's why it's so important for us to embrace ourselves. love ourselves, because we are beautiful.
The art of favor, the art of grace. You are listening to Long Live the Arts. And though we do know that art